There is something I need to say to you before we go any further, and I need you to listen not just with your ears, but with the part of you that has been carrying a question for a very long time. A question you may have stopped asking out loud because it felt too painful, too strange, too difficult to explain to anyone else. Why do I feel like I never fully belong anywhere? Not at work, not in a room full of people who should feel like your people, not even sometimes inside your own family. There is a feeling, quiet but persistent, that you are watching life through a window that never quite opens. Like everyone around you has found a way to settle in, to feel at home, to stop searching. And you are still searching, still standing just slightly outside of every circle, still wondering what is wrong with you that belonging feels so far away. I need you to hear what God is saying to you today, because what you have been calling a flaw, He calls a marker. What you have been calling loneliness, He calls separation. What you have been interpreting as rejection, He calls selection. And He sent this message to reach you today because you have been too close to believing the wrong story about your own life. This is not a coincidence. This is a conversation, and it begins here. If you have been watching this channel, you already know how this works. But for those of you who are here for the first time, welcome. This is a space where God speaks directly to the people He has set apart. Not the people who have it all figured out, not the ones who feel spiritually confident every single day, the ones who are in the middle of the mystery, the ones who feel it but cannot always name it, the ones who know somewhere deep in them that God has something specific on their life. But sometimes that knowing collides with the everyday reality of feeling profoundly alone in a world that does not quite understand them. Before we go any further, I want to ask you something. If this channel has been speaking to you, if these messages have been finding you in the right moment, please subscribe right now and turn on your notification bell. Every message I bring here is crafted specifically for the people God is preparing. You do not want to miss what is coming, and leave a comment right now that says, I was set apart. Not as a wish, not as a question, as a declaration. Because by the time this message is over, you are going to understand why those words are the most accurate description of your entire life. Comment it now. Let it be the first thing you speak over yourself today. There is a verse I want to anchor everything we say today in. It is found in the Gospel of John, chapter 15, verse 19. And it is not a verse that gets preached often because it is uncomfortable. It does not promise that belonging to God will make you feel at home in the world. It says the opposite. As it is written, if you were of the world would love its own. But because you are not of the world, but I chose you out of the world, because of this the world hates you. John 15:19. Read that slowly. I chose you out of the world, not into the world, not to be celebrated by the world, not to be perfectly comfortable and welcome and understood by the world, out of it, extracted, separated, pulled from one thing and placed in another. And the consequence of that, the natural, inevitable consequence, is that the world you were pulled from no longer fits you the way it fits the ones who were not chosen. This is what most people misread as a social problem, a personality issue, an introversion, or a communication failure, or some wound from childhood that needs to be healed so that finally, you can feel at home with the people around you. And while God heals wounds, and He does, the feeling you have been carrying is not primarily a wound. It is a watermark. It is the evidence that something was done to you, in you, that changed the way you fit inside spaces that were never designed for who you are becoming. This is the first thing God wants you to understand today. What you call displacement, I call consecration. What you call distance, I call distinction. You are not broken because you cannot settle. You are set apart because your destination is elsewhere. And here is what most people never understand about this. The feeling of not belonging has two completely different origins. For some people, it comes from rejection, from being excluded, abandoned, or told they were not enough. That is a wound, and it is real, and God heals it. But for others, and this is the one the enemy works hard to confuse, the feeling of not belonging comes from election, from being chosen for a path that is not ordinary, from carrying an assignment that is too large for the rooms they are currently in. The problem is that both feelings feel the same on the inside. Both feel like standing outside of something everyone else seems to enjoy. Both feel like watching. Both feel like longing. And so the enemy takes what God designed as a mark of consecration and convinces you it is evidence of inadequacy. This is the lie you have been living under, and today God is pulling it off of you. Now stay with me, because what I am about to say connects all of it. Remember Joseph, my beloved. He was one of 12 brothers. He grew up in a family. He had people around him, people who shared his blood, people who ate at the same table. And yet, from his earliest days, he did not fit. His dreams were different. His perception was different. What he saw when he closed his eyes at night was different from everything his brothers could understand. And that difference did not make his family celebrate him. It made them resent him. As it is written, when his brothers saw that their father loved him more than all his brothers, they hated him and could not speak a kind word to him. Genesis 37:4. Do you see? Joseph was not separated because he failed. He was separated because he carried something that the people around him were not equipped to hold. So it is with you. When Joseph was thrown into a pit, he did not know the next chapter. He did not have a map. He did not receive a vision in that pit that said, "Do not worry, you will be prime minister in 13 years." He experienced the full weight of abandonment, the full confusion of being betrayed by the people who were supposed to know him best. He was sold as a slave and taken to Egypt, a foreign country, a foreign culture, a people who did not speak his language, who did not share his history, who did not worship his God. He was a stranger in every room he entered. And yet, the scripture says this, and I need you not to miss it. The Lord was with Joseph so that he prospered, and he lived in the house of his Egyptian master. Genesis 39:2. God was with him in the foreignness. God was with him in the rooms where he did not belong. God was with him not in spite of the displacement, but inside it. So it is with you. You have been a stranger in rooms you were placed in, not because God forgot to give you a place, but because he was working something in you that the rooms you were comfortable in could not produce. The isolation was not abandonment, it was instruction. The distance from the crowd was not rejection, it was preparation for a level of intimacy with God that crowds cannot carry. What you call loneliness, I call formation. And I have never let you go, not once, not even in the silence. But listen, this is the part that changes everything. The chosen are not set apart to be permanently homeless. Joseph's story did not end in the pit. It did not end in the prison. It ended in the palace, in a position of authority that his brothers, his family, the very people who could not understand him, eventually had to come to for help. The displacement was not the destination, it was the corridor, and the length of the corridor is not random. God was not being silent, God was being precise. Every room Joseph passed through, the pit, the slave quarters, Potiphar's house, the prison, every one of them taught him something he could not have learned any other way. He learned administration, he learned interpretation. He learned how to lead under authority before he was given authority of his own. He was not wandering, he was being prepared. As it is written, "You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives." Genesis 50, 8:20. Do you hear what is inside that verse? God was doing something beyond Joseph. Joseph's displacement, Joseph's loneliness, Joseph's years of not belonging anywhere were in service of something larger than Joseph's comfort. There were lives that depended on where Joseph ended up. There was a famine coming that required someone in the right position, and getting someone into that position required a path that looked, from the outside, like a series of failures and abandonments. Your not belonging is not a detour. It is the route. The people who need you on the other side of this season need you to have been formed in exactly the way you are being formed. They need you to understand what it feels like to be on the outside. They need you to carry a compassion that is only born in long seasons of being misunderstood. They need you to have learned things in the quiet that you could never have learned in the noise. What you call delay, I call preparation. And I have never taken my eyes off of you. There is something more I want you to understand about the way God marks the chosen. It is found in the way He speaks to them and when. As it is written, "For you are a chosen people, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, God's special possession, that you may declare the praises of Him who called you out of darkness into His wonderful light." 1 Peter 2:9, out of darkness, not from the comfortable middle, not from the place where everything made sense, out of darkness into light. The movement is the calling, the contrast is the testimony. If you had always belonged, you would have nothing to say to the ones who feel like they never will. God chose you out of the world, John 15:19. He called you out of darkness, 1 Peter 2:9. He set you apart before you were born, Jeremiah 1:5. This was never accidental. This was never a mistake. This was a design. You are not someone who failed to find belonging. You are someone whose belonging was placed somewhere the average eye cannot see yet. You have not been standing outside because the door is locked. You have been standing outside because you are carrying something that does not fit inside yet. And when the right door opens, everything you carried through the corridor will be exactly what is needed in the room. Now, I want to step out of the message for just a moment because I believe what God has placed in your hands matters. If you are watching this and you feel the reality of being set apart, but the path forward is still unclear, I want to tell you about something that thousands of chosen people have already used to get clarity, to remove what was blocking them, and to finally step into the life God promised them. The 7 Steps of the Chosen is a guide created specifically for people like you, people who know they were called, who feel the weight of the assignment, but who have been standing in the same place for too long. It walks you through 21 days of shielding your life from the spiritual forces that have been working against your advancement, unlocking the blessings God attached to your name, and walking deliberately into the territory He always had for you. Not in theory. In 21 practical prayer-covered, decree-anchored days. The link is pinned in the first comment. Get it now. Comment "I was set apart" and begin the 21 days that will change the trajectory of your life from this point forward. Before we continue, I want to take a moment because what is happening in this space matters deeply to me. Teaching people to understand who they are in God, not in a surface way, but in a way that reaches the deepest questions they carry, that takes real time, real prayer, real preparation. If these messages have been helping you understand your life differently, I invite you to consider supporting this channel. The link is pinned in the first comment. Buy me a coffee, completely voluntary, no obligation. But if the Spirit moves you to give, know that your generosity reaches the next person who finds this video on the night they are ready to give up on the idea that they were ever chosen for anything at all. I am honored that you are here. And now, I have something else I want to place in your hands. You have been praying, you have been believing. But there is a difference between asking God to move and speaking with the authority He already gave you. Chosen in Action gives you 21 spiritual decrees, not generic prayers, but targeted declarations that shift the atmosphere of your life in less than 7 days. The link is pinned in the first comment. Comment, "I decree it now." And let that be the first declaration of your new season. Now let me hold up a mirror for you, because I want you to see yourself with clarity. Not the version of yourself the world has described, the version God sees when He looks at you. You have spent years walking into rooms and wondering why you could never quite get comfortable. You have watched other people laugh and settle and connect with an ease that felt foreign to you. You have built relationships, and yet even in the closest ones, there has always been a layer, something you could not fully share, something you could not fully explain, something that separated you from the full experience of belonging that you watched others have. And in your most honest moments, you have wondered if something is fundamentally broken in you, if the isolation is punishment, if the distance is the evidence of some failure you cannot even name. But today I am telling you, that interpretation is wrong, every bit of it. You are not broken, you are built differently. The discomfort you have felt in ordinary spaces is not a deficiency, it is a dimension that was placed in you because where you are going is not ordinary. And ordinary spaces cannot fully hold you, not because you are too much, but because you are made for more than what those spaces contain. You are not forgotten. You are not invisible, you are mine. And the very things that have made you feel like an outsider are the exact things I have been using to build the interior life that your assignment requires. The hidden season was not punishment, it was protection. I kept you from settling for a smaller story than the one I wrote for you. I kept you from planting roots in ground that could not hold the tree I was growing you into. The longing you feel for a place where you truly belong, that longing is real, and it will be satisfied, but it will not be satisfied by fitting into the world that I pulled you out of. It will be satisfied by walking fully into the place I am preparing you for. The hidden season was not punishment, it was protection. You were never behind, you were being formed. Now I want to tell you about the moment when the set-apart season begins to shift. Because Joseph's story has a turn, and so does yours. The turn does not always announce itself. It does not always come with a sign in the sky or a voice you can hear with your physical ears. Sometimes it comes as an opening, a conversation, a door that did not exist yesterday, a clarity that replaces the confusion, a peace that arrives in the place where anxiety used to live. As it is written, He has made everything beautiful in its time. He has also set eternity in the human heart, yet no one can fathom what God has done from beginning to end. Ecclesiastes 3:11. Beautiful in its time, not in your time, not in the time that makes sense by human measurement, in the time that a God who sees the whole story, the beginning and the end, deems correct. And this is the tension the chosen carry. They have eternity in their hearts. They feel the weight of something larger. They sense the pull toward a destiny they cannot fully describe. But they are living in time, in days and weeks and years that feel slow, that feel uncertain, that feel like nothing is happening. And the dissonance between what they carry inside and what they see in front of them is one of the heaviest things a human being can hold. But hear what God is saying to you today. That tension, that gap between the eternity in your heart and the time in front of your eyes is not a sign that the promise failed. It is the sign of the promise. It is the evidence that you carry something real. Something that has not yet fully arrived does not produce this kind of longing in a person who was not built for it. The longing is not emptiness. The longing is preparation. Your heart is stretching to hold what is coming. And I want to tell you what happens to the chosen people who understand this truth, who stop fighting the set-apart life and start walking deliberately in it. They begin to move differently. They stop apologizing for the ways they do not fit. They stop shrinking to make others comfortable. They stop interpreting the distance as deficiency. They begin to inhabit their assignment with a precision that surprised even themselves. They discover that the very things they spent years hiding, the depth, the sensitivity, the ability to sit with silence, the perception that saw things others could not, were not weaknesses to overcome. They were tools, specifically designed, intentionally placed tools for the work they were called to do. As it is written, "For we are God's handiwork, created in Christ Jesus to do good works, which God prepared in advance for us to do." Ephesians 2:10, handiwork. Not accident, not outcome, handiwork. Something made by a craftsman who knew exactly what he was building and exactly what it would be used for. You were not assembled randomly and then left to figure out your purpose. You were made, specifically, intentionally, with full knowledge of the life you would live and the assignment you would carry. For works that God prepared in advance, before you were born. Before you felt the first moment of not belonging, He already knew, He already prepared, He was already working. This is not a coincidence, this is a conversation. And every moment of your life, every room where you were the one standing slightly apart, every relationship where you could never quite fully land, every season that felt longer than it should have, every single one of them was a chapter in a story that God has been writing toward a very specific end. I want to place something else in your hands before we close, because understanding your identity is one thing, but having the tools to walk into it fully is another. And too many chosen people have the revelation without the road. They know who they are in God, but something keeps blocking the manifestation of what He promised. The finances stay stuck. The opportunities stay just out of reach. The potential inside them has no clear path to expression. Chosen to Win gives you 30 revelations that activate protection, money, and restoration in your life now. Everything you need to step from the set-apart season into the full inheritance God already attached to your name. And the 7 steps of the Chosen gives you the 21-day path to remove what has been blocking it and walk deliberately into the level you know you belong on. Both are pinned in the first comment. The level you know you belong on, these two will get you there. Now let me bring you back to where we began, to the question that has been sitting in you, quiet, persistent, sometimes painful. Why do I feel like I never fully belong anywhere? I want you to hold that question one more time, but now hold it with everything you have heard today. Hold it with John 15:19. I chose you out of the world. Hold it with Joseph in the pit, in the prison, in the foreign land, still being prepared for a palace he could not yet see. Hold it with Ephesians 2:10, handiwork, not accident. Hold it with the truth that eternity is in your heart, which means the longing you feel is not emptiness. It is evidence. Hold it with the knowledge that the hidden season was not punishment. It was the corridor that leads to the exact room God designed for you before you were born. You are not forgotten. You are not invisible. You are mine. The not belonging you have carried, the strangeness, the distance, the watching from outside, is the signature of a life that was extracted from the ordinary and placed on a path toward the extraordinary. Not because you are better than anyone, because you were built for something that requires a particular kind of formation, and that formation looks, from the inside, like loneliness. But it is not loneliness. It is sacred preparation. It is the silence before the word, the winter before the spring, the wilderness before the promised land. You have not been forgotten. You have been prepared. And what is coming will make the waiting make sense. Before I release you with one final word, I want to make sure you walk away from this video with more than a feeling. I want you to walk away with something in your hands. Something has been holding back the full expression of who God called you to be. Whether it is a spiritual blockage, an open door from the past, a pattern that keeps repeating no matter how hard you work, or an assignment that has been calling to you, but the path is not yet clear, there are tools God has placed in this time for exactly where you are. You were called out of the world. You were set apart. You carry eternity in your heart. And you deserve to walk into it with everything God made available to you, fully equipped, fully covered, fully moving. The 7 steps of the chosen will give you 21 days that shift your life from the corridor to the room. The link is pinned in the first comment. Click it, receive it, open it, begin, comment. Right now, I was set apart, because that is not just a phrase, that is a declaration of faith that aligns you with the truth God has been speaking over your life before you were even able to hear it. Subscribe to this channel. Turn on the notification bell. Every message I bring here is crafted for the people who are in the middle of the path and need to know they have not been abandoned. And share this message with one person in your life. One person you know who has been carrying this question, who has been standing on the outside of things and wondering why. You may be the instrument God uses to reach the next person who is still waiting to be found. You were not set apart to carry this alone. You were set apart to eventually reach back and show the way to the ones still in the corridor. Go in the knowledge of who you are. You were never behind. You were being formed, and the one who formed you has never, not once, let you go.